Welcome to our wonderful friends around the world. Welcome to High Five Live this morning, and a special thanks to all those who created this remarkable opportunity. High Five Live gives inspirational thoughts every day and love to invite you to tune in and be a part of it throughout your day, each day. And today we have a special treat for you. So
we welcome Denise Kimber with us today. And as you're listening, we would love to know where you are joining from. Did you say that already?
No.
Oh, good. Join us. Let us know in the comments where you're coming from and any questions that you might have, and we'll try to get to those. Denise is a great friend, and we are so grateful that she took time to be with us today. And as we begin, we'll tell you a little bit about this amazing lady.
Yeah, we could talk about that the whole time, but
so we're talking today about what does it take to create a healthy safety net for an individual or for a family. And Denise is the perfect person to talk about gathering in our gathering series, because that's what she does. She gathers children to homes. She gathers families together. And a little bit about her. She received her bachelor's degree in psychology from Brigham Young University in April of 2011. She currently works as the Utah Youth Village Community Placement Program Director.
that's a big title.
Yes, it's a lot of work too,
job.
right? She oversees the family homes, residential treatment, the treatment of foster care, and clinical programs. Her previous positions at Utah Youth Village include working as a Families First Specialist, Coordinator, Assistant Director, and Director of Community Services, developing a new mentoring program. And how long have you been there to do all that?
I've been there for 9 years.
Wow. She is twice certified in the Teaching Family Model. And she also is certified by the state of Utah as a Family Protective Factors Trainer. And we'll learn more about that amazing, amazing program. And through the church, she's had the opportunity to do a lot of teaching with all her skills. She's taught marriage and family relationships classes on the ward level, and then a Stake Institute class, and consistently done this for over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But she also likes to hike, kayak, quilt, and travel, and mostly be a mom and a wife, and put all the principles that she knows into practice in her own home, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All that.
All the time.
Yeah.
All that is so much more remarkable when we understand that that's not the way things began for Denise. Her story is so inspiring that it's almost hard for me to talk about. We've had the privilege of working together in the young adult stake. She did a lot of those teaching experiences as a calling in our stake and taught the young adults these wonderful principles because she learned them firsthand in her own life experience. And Denise, do you want to share a little of that with us?
Yeah, so before I'd ever even heard of the 5 protective factors that make families strong and resilient, I'd never, as you said, I got my bachelor's degree in 2011, and you can see that in 2011, I wasn't 21 like everybody else at BYU. So when I was 23, I found myself divorced with a high school education and no marketable job skills with 2 kids. And so during those years of being single, which for me was over 7 years during that time, where my kids were really little, they were 2 and 3. During those years, we did okay. And I had multiple jobs sometimes, lots of things, but we did okay. And now in my profession in social work, where I see families all the time who aren't doing okay, I had to ask, so what's the difference? And when I was introduced to the protective factors, it really rung so true for me in that understanding what those were and why my family and my kids, we did okay. We weren't involved with the state. We didn't have any kind of, my kids didn't end up on probation. They didn't end up joining a gang. They didn't, all the things that can sometimes happen. And I was okay. Like we survived that really pretty well, considering, and why did that happen? And so the protective factors really help us understand that. When we start unpacking, there's a lot of research into what makes families and individuals resilient. And so it doesn't matter whether you have your own family, children yourself, or whether it's your nieces and nephews and other people that you interact with, your roommate, all those things, those relationships are resilient because of certain things. And there are 5 things that we know that really make those resilient.
Now, you also had some other risk factors during that time, not a lot of support from your former spouse. And
that's true. Yeah.
Difficult things with that.
No child support for that entire time. My kids went for a couple of years without even seeing their dad. So their dad had become a drug addict, which is how we ended up divorced. And so, yeah, during that time, that was rough. Yeah, that was a hard time in my life.
So,
sure.
Denise, can I just say something? I mean, my PhD is in marriage and family therapy, and having worked in the field, the fact that you did what you just said, that you are what you are right now, and came through that experience is heroic. and because you've learned those great things, I just want to compliment you on overcoming and being so strong and all that you've done, because to me, you are a great, great example. And I know you were to all of our young adults and so many others in your own family. So thank you so much.
Well, I think that's what our life is about, right? It's about learning and growing. It's about the atonement. And the atonement isn't just about sin. It's about the opportunity for us to be different tomorrow than we were today. And that could be in education. That can be in 100 different ways, thousands of different ways, frankly. And that opportunity presents itself because we're here to do those things.
And you are such an example of doing that, right?
And such an example. And I know because you went through all of those experiences, that helped you want to help others and help them learn the skills that you learned and share. So how did you get involved in that? And when did you decide to go back to school? And just tell us what was the core motivation?
Honestly, I went back to school with the plan of taking a photography class.
Whoa!
I love it.
And I hated the photography class, and I went to the school counselor, who happened to be my next door neighbor, and she said, well, maybe you should, look at actually getting a degree. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. Yeah, that seems crazy. I'm old. And she's like, you're not too old to get a degree. And so then we kind of started talking about it. By the time I left her office, I was signed up for 14 credits. And
I love it. That's great.
And then after I got my associates, I transferred to BYU. But during that time, I took a marriage and family class. And the social worker who was teaching that class actually asked me if I wanted to be her intern. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know what the word internship, I didn't know. I was like, I don't know, what do you have to do? And she said, so I worked for a year there, assessing preschoolers, just help them get kindergarten ready, help them find resources that they need. And I think that really ties back into our protective factors that I started talking about a second ago, right? So I loved it. I loved helping those families, figure out what was going on with their little guys and help them find the resources that they needed to, get them up to speed so that they went to kindergarten and moved on successfully, or got the resources that they were going to need while they were going to school, or, just learned the parenting things that they needed so that they could manage maybe the behavioral problem they were having, or whatever that might be. And so that was really the start for me. And that's what made me decide to go on and get my degree in psychology. And then when I started working with Families First, that was about going in and behaviorally teaching parents new skills. And it's really easy to judge a parent who's doing what we would consider horrible job with their kids. But most of us do what we know until we know better. I mean, all of us do what we know until we know better. And so being able to to give parents skills that they didn't have and help them understand how their behavior is affecting their relationship with their kids and vice versa, and really being able to holistically work with the family so that they all get to be better too.
And when you say be with the family, you mean you go into their homes and you're with them many hours a week. This isn't just bringing them to an office to chat.
No.
Your interaction with them is so important
and intimate.
So tell us what you taught them. Tell us about the 5 protective factors. What did you learn?
So the 5 protective factors, the first one is nurturing and attachment. So that strong relationship that you have with your primary caregiver when you were born, or someone else as you're going to become an adult. Like, that doesn't have to necessarily just be with your mom or dad. But that nurturing attachment is an important piece. For parents, understanding normal child development so that their expectations for their kids are where they should be. So I'm not expecting my 3-year-old to act like an 8-year-old, and I'm also not having low expectations for my teenager, who, is totally capable of doing that thing that I didn't think they were. One of the protective factors, there are a couple I think are really super important. And one of them is social and emotional connection. What we know about our social connections is that it's the biggest predictor of our happiness throughout our life and our longevity, how long we're going to live. That's about our relationships, which honestly comes back to my personal belief that our whole job here in life is in our relationships. Our struggles are in our relationships, our learnings in our relationships, all those things are in our relationships. And isolation takes us out of that. And so for people or families who are very isolated, they really struggle. And they struggle not just emotionally, struggle physically. So family functioning and resilience is the 4th one. And that's really about a parent or yourself being committed to your own self-care, to your own development, those kinds of things. You can't take care of someone else if you aren't doing that for you first. And then the last one is concrete support. And that's about, do you have housing? Do you have food? Do you have electricity? Do you have heat when it's cold in the winter? And
all those important things.
Yeah, because all the rest doesn't matter. If we're all starving, it doesn't really, we're not going to really focus on our relationship because everyone's just trying to survive, right? And so, but those 5 things, and when I look back at my own life, I think the ways I met the reason that we did so well as we were walking a tight wire is how I really kind of think of it in my head, is that we had this great safety net below us. We had this amazing safety net of my family, my mother. I have a very strong attachment to my parents, to my grandparents. I had 2 grandparents who were alive. Till my children had their own children. The women in my family lived to be in their late 90s, often. And we say we're slow learners, but
you're resilient.
I had grandparents, and I had aunts and uncles, and I had cousins who were, that I was very close to, and am very close to. And so all of those relationships, along with the concrete support that I had when I didn't have the money to make my rent, my mother would absolutely help me with that. I had ways to do that, and I knew who to go to and how. Whether it was my ward, whether it was, those connections can come in lots of different ways. Good neighbors, my visiting teacher, who at that time, that's what we had. We weren't ministering, we were visiting teaching. Right. But whatever that was, I had really good, strong social and emotional support. And so between the fact that I came in naturally with great nurturing and attachment, that had nothing to do with me. That had to do with my parents and their parents before them. And when I had questions, is that normal? Like, my kid's doing this thing. Like, is that weird, or should I be worried about that? My grandma would say, "Oh, she's fine," right? And I would think, okay, now you can Google it and you can know if she's fine or not. But I had to call my grandma. But I had
Grandma is better than Google, though.
That's
absolutely
right.
Grandmas always know more than Google. You can't trust them. Yeah, grandmas know. But those 5 protective factors we had really strong, and that's why we were a resilient family that did well even with the risk factors that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing that those 5 things, so many of them are one of the safety net factors that we have in addition to our personal safety net is the beautiful blessings of the restored gospel that's there to give us that kind of a dual safety net to help us. I mean, we're even taught that the same sociality which exists here will exist there. So really one of our great purposes here is to develop those relationships and learn how to support and strengthen each other. And what you just described is remarkable. And also those great blessings that come from our church family, our extended family. And what we've learned in the gathering is that that really helps even to extend that family to grandparents and great grandparents. And lots of research that says that makes a huge difference. So,
and I personally, like when I think of nurturing and attachment, or even my social and emotional support, I mean, I personally think of my relationship with my Savior and with my Heavenly Father. Those are just as important for me, if not more so, than that of my mother or my father here on earth. Like those are just as real.
That's right. And when children and youth learn that they have that option to them, so when they don't have other support systems set up or available, if we could just teach them to rely on the Savior.
And for parents who feel like they didn't get that good knowledge of parenting, right? They don't want to be the parent that their parents were. And there are plenty of people that are in that boat. There are great resources. The organization I work for, the nonprofit I work for, has Smarter Parenting, and Smarter Parenting has hundreds of videos and printables and all kinds of things that can help build those connections and those relationships with your kids. Effective consequences, so you know that you're doing it in a way that you can give your kids consequences in a way that actually makes them feel safe and builds your relationship with them. It doesn't damage that, even if they're mad about it for a minute. You can have healthy communication. There's lots of tools on Smarter Parenting and lots of other places that you can find to figure that out for yourself. We don't all come in with great safety nets. Sometimes we have holes in our nets, and it's our job to figure out how to shore those up and to, for all of us we just all have different holes.
That's right. So how do they contact Smarter Parenting? What's that website?
So our Smarter Parenting website is really simple. It's www.smarterparenting.com.
That's pretty great.
There's also
it is amazing. I cannot believe all that's on there.
Yeah, there's some really fun videos that are very relatable. You can sit and think, okay, yeah, that's exactly what would happen at my house, and how can I make that different, right?
That's right.
So yeah, Smarter Parenting has some really great resources for parents who had good parents. I always think, when I worked in Families First, I thought, I wish I had Families First when I was a parent, because it could have been so much easier for me. Nobody gives you a manual. You get this baby and you just kind of do the best you can, and you do what you know. And and it's a manual. Smarter Parenting is a manual for how to be a parent.
That's wonderful.
It's fantastic.
And then United Way has a website. Tell us about that 211 number.
Yeah, 211 is a magic website. So United Way has, and you can also call 211 on your phone, and you'll get somebody who will answer questions for you. 211 is basically all the resources that United Way kind of collects. And that means that different providers throughout the state that provide different things, whether it's, I'm going to provide help with for you doing your taxes. Right now, I noticed when I pulled it up last time, they've got a little thing, need help doing your taxes? There's a great Help Me Grow group that will actually send out a questionnaire to you for your child, specific to its age, within 10 weeks of your child's age, and you answer the questions and they'll send something back. They'll have someone call you and say that they're on track for normal development, or they're a little bit behind in these gross motor skills. And so you might want to contact this group who can help you with that. So they'll connect you to different things, everything from that to how to keep your heat on in the winter if you don't have the money to do it. They do a great job.
That's something new for us. We didn't know a lot about that. I've kind of heard about the number before, but the details you just talked about, that's really exciting.
It's a great resource for people and families, both. I mean, just, for individuals or families, for all kinds of things you need. It's the thing I used to ride my bike to the library and look up. You can just call 211 Connect or get on their website and all the answers are there.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
So you have had so many experiences with so many families being in their homes. Any experiences that kind of stand out to you that you've
Success
seen?
stories? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Oh, that's going to be those are the hard things for me to talk about. Yeah, I remember actually as a family's first specialist, I was assigned a family and I went and I found a mom with a little 4-year-old in an apartment, and mom was was in recovery from meth use, and this little 4-year-old was born meth addicted, and so she had really, really outrageous behaviors. Really angry, which is really common with no emotional regulation. And she was 4, so 4 is also a really hard time for emotional regulation. So you can't both of those things together. She was tough, and she was tough to the point that I was actually really afraid of this 4-year-old. She was aggressive. She would bite. She would spit. She would throw dishes at you, chairs. She tried to push an entertainment center over on me. And she was very aggressive. And mom really had no parenting skills. Obviously, she had not been parented well. She'd been drug addicted since she was 11 when her father had started using drugs with her. And she had been severely abused and neglected in many, many ways. So now she has this 4-year-old. She's she's clean, but she doesn't really know how to function in life. And I remember thinking, okay, so I started teaching moms some basic parenting skills and helping kind of get the house cleaned up a little bit and some things like that. And I started teaching this little girl the skill of following instructions, which is just when someone tells you something, you look at them, you say, okay, and you do it right away. And then you come back and you say, I did it. And I remember even talking to my supervisor and saying, I don't think I can, I think this family it's probably just too much. Like, I don't think we're going to make a difference here. And at first I really hated to go there because it was so hard in so many ways. I would hold a cushion of a couch in front of me to try to protect myself from this little girl. And 12 weeks later, when we went to court and mom was given full custody of her back again, and this little girl was sitting at the table and coloring, the judge said, well, you're doing such a good job. You're so different than last time I saw you. And she said, that's because I learned how to follow instructions. And mom learned how to give effective praise and use consequences effectively and all the things that helped her want to follow instructions. And then the judge told me the last time she was here, she actually came up onto behind the judge and was kicking her and hitting her and doing these things to the judge in court. And she said, she's so different. And this little girl drew me a little book about how she learned to follow instructions. And it really drove home for me. We always get a second chance, right? We always can learn and we can always do better, whether you're 4 or whether you were the 30-year-old mom who really wanted to know how to do something different. At first she didn't. When I got there, I was court ordered and she was like, whatever.
Oh, that's hard.
Which is a hard thing for families for specialists. Often we get told things like, get out. I don't want you here. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you either have to do that or we have to go, I've got to tell that to your caseworker. Fine, But once she realized, like, I had some tools that I could give her that she could use to change her life. And there are Families First does about 500 families a year. Works with about 500
wow.
in Utah. And I just think what better opportunity is there than to be able to give a family the tools to save themselves and to, keep their family together, to build that resiliency. It's really such an amazing.
So amazing. We were saying before we came on, the woman at the well in John chapter 4, sweet lady in crisis, 5 divorces, so much rejection, so much pain. And the Savior just gathered her and gave her a safety net and changed her forever. We just think you follow that beautiful example of the Savior in all that you do. And that he is so grateful, and we are so grateful for all of that. And we're so grateful we've been together today to talk about that and to share these great resources and to be reminded that we just develop the safety nets when we have holes, and we celebrate the safety nets that we have, and help others develop the same.
Yeah.
And that's a great part of this wonderful process of mortal life, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's truly
We all
the gathering. Thank you.
Second chance. And third and fourth and hundreds.
That's right. Thanks, Denise. Thank you so much for being with us today. And to all our viewers, please, please share this wonderful broadcast, and so that others can learn the skills and know where these resources are. And if you have any questions, please, please put them in the comments or contact us. And we would love to have you be helped in any way. And if you know others, be sure and share that with them.
And thank you so much for tuning in today. Thanks, Denise. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.